Basketball Manitoba podcast, we have Keylyn Filewich. She is currently playing her first year as a professional basketball player in Germany for the Astroladies. She is a graduate of Vincent Massey Collegiate, where she won a provincial championship, was a two-time All-Manitoban, and was recognized as the MHSAA Athlete of the Year. She played on the Manitoba provincial team for 5 years, winning a gold medal in 2014. After high school, she was recruited to play at the University of British Columbia, where she was Canada West All-Rookie Team, Canada West First Team All-Star 2 times, Canada West Player of the Year, USPORT First Team All-Star, and was the UBC Female Athlete of the Year. She then transferred back to her hometown, suiting up for the Winnipeg Wesmen, where they went all the way to the national final. With the Wesmen, she was recognized as Canada West First Team All-Star, Canada West Player of the Year, USPORT First Team All-Star, and was USPORT Player of the Year. Keylyn, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Okay, so I'm going through your bio. I'm building it out here, and offline, I was like, man, there's just so many awards. I actually was mentioning to people in the office, it's like just so many awards. And then I was like, what I do with some of the other guests, I actually go and look, and there's this website that tracks all of like the stats. And so I went in to go look real quick. I'm like, well, I wonder where you're ranking in the UBC all-time record book. And suffice it to say, you were ranked pretty high there as well. And we didn't list some of those things in the bio because I was like, yeah, this is gonna be too much. So suffice it to say, you've had an unbelievable collegiate career. You had an unbelievable high school career. I mean, winning a gold medal. I mean, you've just kind of been doing so much. But now you're in Germany, and it's it's just a fresh start. We were chatting offline. I was like asking you how you're liking it. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, I mean, how's it been so far? You've only been out there. How long have you been out there for?
Yeah, so I just got here end of August.
Okay.
I was allowed to start practicing September 1st because that's when my health insurance kicked in.
Okay.
So finally got to start practicing, and honestly, the atmosphere in Germany is not that different from Canada in terms of the whole vibe. I didn't find like a huge culture shock. Like the grocery stores look the same. There's just different writing. So getting used to that. The people are all super nice. I'm loving my team a lot. In terms of the basketball, I find much of the same, but also kind of different. Definitely a lot faster. The pro game is. And I don't mind that. I kind of knew coming in it would be definitely faster, a lot of people with more basketball IQ playing.
For sure.
But the biggest difference I think I noticed was in practices, how we don't split up post and guards, which might seem like a small difference, but I think it's huge because every practice I've been in terms of like my collegiate career at UBC and U of W, we've always split up like, hey, post bigs over here, guards go down here, and we do different stuff. But here there's a huge philosophy on like everybody shoots the three, like everybody's going to have that footwork. Everybody's going to know how to come off the screen. Everybody's going to know how to, get inside, go to work. So I find that's the biggest thing. Like I see my guards on my team, they have footwork, they're in there, like they want to post up. The bigs on my team, they're out there shooting threes, coming off flares. So I think that's one of the best kind of things I've noticed transitioning here. And obviously still a lot to learn. I've only been here almost 2 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't complain. It's been a really good start.
For sure. I mean, like year one, you're like what, 2, 3? We're in October right now, so
yeah,
been there for like 3 months. So well, that's super interesting because you do hear that about the European game, right? We know that like they do things differently, right? Like it's not the same, and so to hear you say that is like, yeah, it makes sense. But do you feel that like when you first got there and they're like, okay, like you're doing things, was it a little bit challenging, or were you just natural, like, yeah, okay, let's go, this is perfect, this is actually what I would have preferred to be doing all these years?
Definitely my first practice. I don't know if it was the time change or what. I was struggling, like couldn't catch a ball. Like, what is basketball? Was not having it. But as I've kind of got my legs under me and everything, I think I like it a lot better. I mean, I like being able to be outside. In the in the pro game, I need to expand my range and play out there. So I'm really enjoying it. And I think it's something that going back to Canada, I'm going to tell a lot of people about and share with a lot of coaches, because I think it is incredibly important that players have, you know, both of those skills, and the fact that we separate post and guard so early in the game, because I think we're separating us in high school or middle school. So the fact that we get to do everything together, I think it's huge. And you definitely see it in the players. Everybody's more fluid on the court. There's not that hard, like, this is a 1 skill set, this is a 2 skill set. It's a lot more fluid. And I really noticed it. We got to go, the Eurobasket was playing near us in Cologne. So we got to go watch Luka Doncic, got to watch Germany play. And you just see on those teams, the European game, everybody plays everywhere. They all have the skill sets. So if they're put in a position in a game to, you know, post up, they're doing that. They have the footwork to do that. And so, yeah, that's definitely opened my eyes, and I'm excited to be over here because I like that kind of game.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, because like I think in Canada we get caught too much trying to emulate the American system because we're so close. So it's like, oh, like that's what they do, so like it makes sense. But you know, I mean, we don't necessarily have the population or the amount of people playing basketball, so like we're gonna have less, like, you know, natural ability. So you know, that's the one thing I always love about the European basketball players, because you get people who, like, they're not even that good of athletes, but like they're good basketball players, and that's because, to your point, it's like they have a wide range of skills that they can implement when they need to, right? So it's super interesting to hear you say that, and I'm curious to see how your game expands, right? Like, you have good touch and everything, so now as you get to like do more, you're like, okay, like I was saying, it's like, maybe I should have been doing more of this, you know, like earlier on, like what's going on, you know? So
no,
it's
definitely
very, very interesting. So okay, so we know where you are now. You know, the bio kind of like walked us through, you know, kind of gave us a big picture, like, okay, this is how your career went. This is, you know, we can list these awards up on the wall. But, you know, and this probably won't surprise you at all. Like, I obviously know, I wouldn't say very well, but I've had many interactions with your mother, right? Because of course, throughout the years, like with basketball, like your mom's a basketball person, right? And so we've talked quite a bit, and I remember always like talking about you and stuff like that. And she's very proud, right? So she's very, very, you know, like, I'm going to talk about my kids. But I say all that just because I'm going to just assume, unless you tell us otherwise here, that they were, you know, your parents and your family is probably a very active athletic family. So the question is like, what are your first basketball memories? I'm sure you played a bunch of sports, but like basketball specifically, when did you first start playing it? Where did you first start playing it? Who introduced you to it? Tell us a little bit about that.
So growing up, I always knew my mom and dad met in college, and that they both played college ball. It was not a secret. Like, they told everybody. I knew. So that was kind of my first introduction, I guess, to basketball, because they always, you know, had it on the TV, talked about it a lot. They had a lot of friends, and knew the community very well. But growing up, I think I played hockey, was my like first true love sport. And it wasn't till grade 6, my mom was like, hey, do you want to play basketball? Like, they need a coach for the Waverly Community Club. And they contacted me, and, you know, it's your age. Why don't you play? And so that was kind of my first real, I guess, basketball season, and like actually going to practice and stuff. And I think my parents were really excited. My dad got me a pair of Kobe's. Like, I was set.
He was like, finally, we're doing this.
He's like, finally,
let's go.
Enough with the hockey equipment. He was so excited. So that was my first season. And I remember just being like, yeah, this is cool. Like, it was kind of, we played every Sunday, and I really liked the games, didn't know about the practices. I was like, this is all running, you know. And it was okay. I was, at that point, I was not very high level, but playing the highest level of hockey, and you know, we're showing up to games in dresses and stuff, looking nice. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was kind of used to that elite world. And then this basketball was community club. So I wasn't really, I was like, oh, this is, I don't know how I feel about this. And so, so my mom coached me, which was, has its ups and downs. And it was a good season. We ended up winning that year. And so of course, winning helps. And so I decided, you know what, next year, I'm going to play again. Went on in grade 7, played for community club, as well as started playing edge with Minich Nowering. He was our coach, and because I was always friends with Skylar. And so growing up, we lived very close. So again, played on his team grade 7, still loved it. And then I believe in grade 8 was the first year that I had like an actual school season, because grade 7 they still kind of do that, just like one tournament. So grade 8 was finally like, okay, we're gonna see how this is actually for a whole, you play all through winter. And that was when Jody Sampson and Darren Sampson were my coaches, and obviously huge names in the basketball community. They love basketball, and they demanded a lot from me, which I think I needed, because playing for my mom, you kind of have a different power structure there,
For sure.
I had no problem mouthing off to her.
Yeah, it's your mom.
Yeah, exactly. If I didn't want to do something, like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not doing that. So this is the first time I think things were demanded of me. And at that point I was 6'1". So like, obviously the biggest girl on the court. Obviously they're looking a lot for me. And so that was kind of the first time where I was like, okay, I actually like this basketball thing. Like, I like the structure. I like learning an offense. I like the tactical things. We were talking about on defense, what we should do. On offense, what are good plays. And I just like that whole world of it not just being from grade 7, you just basically pass, run, layup.
Yeah.
I loved learning about the game. And so that was a great season. We ended up losing in the provincial championships to Kiana and Kiva Giles.
Yeah, I'm sure you ran into them quite a few units playing with them, obviously, but
it's a lot more fun playing with them than against them. I'll let you know. But yeah, so we had a great season. I think like our team was beating everybody by 20, but then their team was beating everybody by 20. So like, it was kind of fun, but also we'd win and then be like, oh shoot, we have to play them. So yeah. So
was that grade 8 year kind of like your first, like, where you're like, this is serious, like became like, I'm actually doing this now?
Yeah, definitely. I think at that point I was playing volleyball very competitively, and hockey still. So I remember like every week I'd have to pick one of those sports to miss a practice of. And so hockey at that point was super strict, and they're like, well, if you miss a practice, you're sitting a period.
Yeah.
So, I kind of had to weigh those. My best friend, Karina McLennan, she also was in the same boat with hockey and playing basketball. So we kind of just took turns taking a practice off. But definitely, I think that's when I realized like, okay, this is a serious, like definitely top 3 of my favorite sports that I'm playing right now. And definitely something I could see myself playing high school and then maybe university, if I stick with it and, get better. So then that summer was the U15 provincial tryouts. So I remember going to that and just being totally scared, because I knew of a lot of the girls. I had played against Kia and Kiana at this point. But also it was totally a new world to me, because I didn't know any of the older girls. It was a U15 team, so I was still 14 at the time. Didn't know a lot. Sarah was our head coach there with Jana. And I think I had the athleticism from hockey at that point. I was tall and my parents had connections. And I think that kind of helped. And so made the team. And at that point, I think my left hand was non-existent, like very raw. I was very raw as a basketball player still.
For sure.
But the whole tryout process was definitely an experience. And it was nice to see the game being played at a higher level than I'd ever been a part of before. So that definitely made me excited too. And yeah, so I made the team. And had honestly probably one of the best experiences of basketball ever that summer. Got close with, again, Keylyn Kiana, Razel was on that team, Brittany Parisian was on that team. All of us younger girls, we got really close. And I think that's what really helped us that year. We ended up beating Ontario, who had at the time Bridget Carleton, who plays on the Minnesota Lynx now, plays for Team Canada. They had all of these girls that ended up going. Julia Chandler went to Syracuse. Another girl was the starting point guard at Illinois. Like, they had all of these big names. And so we really had no business being in that game. But we played them in the semifinals for nationals. And I think that was one of the most like engraved in my brain games that I will ever play in. And I'll never forget it, because I think all of the starting five, all of us cried at least at one point in the game. It was so intense, and none of us had experienced the pressure.
It was like first time, right? First time. You're just like, wow.
So like, I remember at halftime, I think Razel and Kia cried. I think in the third quarter sometime, Kiana cried, Jordan Tully cried, I was crying. Like, we're all just so intense. And that game ended up going to double overtime. And we ended up pulling off the win. And I think I've never had that feeling before of just being in a pressure situation, the national final game on the line. And then I think that game is like, I can pinpoint it. And that's when I was like, I love this sport. Like,
that was the moment.
It was the moment. Like, I love this sport. I don't think I could play any other sport, because nothing, like in a hockey game, if you're up 1-0, yes, it's close, but it's not that close. And then there's nothing like a basketball game being 1 point away and you have like 20 seconds. Or being tied and having the ball. There's nothing, no other sport that I've played that I felt like that. So I think that definitely was the moment that I was like, I'm done. I'm sold. Basketball is my sport. And honestly, I appreciate that my parents kind of let me find it on my own. They never pressured me to play basketball. They never, it wasn't like I was 2 and they put a basketball in my hand and were like, this is what you're doing. They definitely let me and my brother as well, like, find it on our own and fall in love with it on our own. And that definitely happened for me.
That's awesome. No, that's such a cool story. Like, those moments, like when you're describing it, because like I think every basketball player has had some version of those moments, and they understand what you were talking about with basketball, like how there's just an intensity to it and the back and forth and like scoring. Like you had mentioned hockey. That's the one thing I'll say about most other sports, almost every other sport. Like other sports, so basketball, it's like you're going to score. Like, there's no way about it. And it's like the balance, the difficulty is like trying not to let the other team score. Whereas other sports, it's like scoring is hard. It's super hard. And so basketball has this like different element to it, where it's like, there's just like this back and forth and this intensity that at any moment, it can change like that. And like literally at any moment. Right. And so I totally get where you're coming from with that. Cause like, obviously we've had our own moments, but I want to kind of go back. So like, you kind of walked us through, it was very recreational and like, you're a small child all the way up to the point where you're like a teenager and you're like, okay, I really love this. So along that journey, you had mentioned some of your coaches by name.
Yeah.
But maybe there's some of those I like to call them mentors, right? Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Who were some of those mentors that were like very instrumental in just kind of like guiding you or keeping you going or like showing you something new? That just, when I ask you that question, like, who are those first people that come to mind, and maybe some of the things that they kind of taught you?
Yeah. I would definitely say Darren and Jody were huge mentors in me for basketball. They're the ones, I think they're super excited seeing me come to this school and at Acadia. And I mean, my dad taught there, so they weren't sure if I was going to come, but super excited, talking to me throughout all of grade 7, can't wait till grade 8. And, we finally have an actual basketball season, actual team. And I think they taught me a lot about the game, like as I mentioned before, the more tactical stuff. They taught me how important it is to be a leader, I think, because before I was still young. There's leaders in terms of they're the best person and kind of all the kids know it, so you pass the puck to them or you pass the ball to them, and but there's nobody really that truly embodied a leader and what the responsibilities are of a leader. And I think they demanded that of me, and showed me a lot of what it took to be a leader, and that you have to make sure everybody's okay first. Like, you can't just come to practice and expect that things are going to go well just because you're having a good day. Like, everybody's bringing their own things, and so to make sure and go around and check in with everybody. And so that was something definitely I learned, building connections and bonds outside of basketball as well. They would always put on kind of little events for us. And so I think that definitely helped me to realize the importance of, off-court friendships and connections. And I think that's something I definitely took with me into my university career as well. And then again, all the just tactical, like anywhere from like footwork kind of stuff in my own game to, okay, how can you put your teammates in positions to make them successful? Like, why are you passing to so-and-so here? That that's not a good position for them. So why would you put them in a position such as that? Like, that's not beneficial for a team. And so all of those kind of things I was definitely learning. And they'd always clip out little things for me to read on leadership and basketball. And Darren would always call me the boat. He said the best of all time. And it was kind of the first people that really inspired me. And they're like, you could be really good. Like, they said, this is not just something like, some of these girls are just doing this for fun, and just, to be involved in something within the school, but like, this is something you could actually do and be really good at. So I think they inspired me a lot to just keep going with sport and put a lot in, and definitely what hard work means, because Darren is, I don't know if a lot of how many people know him, but he is very vocal and he will not keep things in. He will let you know. Like, I remember grade 8, we were at not Sisler. Where did Key and Kiana play?
They not play at Sisler?
They played at Sisler, but they're
before that?
Before that, yeah.
I couldn't even tell you.
I can't even remember. But I remember being at that gym, and I fouled somebody in a fast break. I fouled Kia in a fast break, and he yelled at me, pulled me out of the game, and then continued to yell at me at the bench, like, you don't foul on a fast break. Like, you don't, I didn't know what a sportsman was like, all of that. So he was like very adamant that I knew in that moment, like, you never do this again. Until this day, I will not foul somebody like, unless my coach is like absolutely telling me to.
Yes.
I will never do it, because I just so clearly remember being yelled at on the end of the bench in that gym.
Really stuck with you, it sounds like.
It really stuck with me.
I was gonna say, you're like, fast forward, we're like, that was a long time ago. You're like, oh,
it was a long time ago. I still remember that feeling. But he was somebody that I think demanded a lot from me, and that's what I needed in that moment. And that's kind of the coach that I've really liked playing for, somebody who demands a lot of me and doesn't let me, relax or coast ever, especially at a young age, when it's easy to just look at all your teammates who are just chilling, they're not working out on their own. They're not putting in extra work. They kind of just come to practice, goof off. It's a way to talk to friends, stay connected with all your people. He definitely demanded a lot more from me. And I think I'm super appreciative of that, because carrying forward, I always have those values now. They were definitely amazing. And
sounds like they like set the tone for you. Essentially, it's like, definitely. Okay, I understand, like you said, like there's a pathway, and this is, you go, they like took you and said, walk that way, and like they're teaching everything now, just keep going. And you like from there, you're like, okay, I get it. Like you just understood from that point.
Definitely. I understood that they were like, they needed to lay building blocks for me that I didn't know how to lay for myself yet. And they definitely did that for me. And I'm so appreciative. Like, I remember when I made the provincial team in grade 8, Darren bought me Chinese food and we had a little celebration lunch.
Nice.
And they've always been on my side, and definitely huge mentors and people that I'm always like giving thanks to. Anytime I've won any of my awards, I always thank them, because they were definitely the ones who started it.
For sure. I could tell. I mean, like, you don't say all those things, and if they didn't, like, it's just, and I mean, that's why I love asking people that question, because like you don't do this stuff alone, right? Like everyone has some ability and natural ability, this, that, and the other, but we all know, or at least I've known many of people who had a lot of ability, and maybe they never met that right mentor, or they didn't listen to them, whatever. And I think, like you had mentioned, like, think about everything you said. Maybe if you didn't have those mentors, who knows, right? Like, you just don't know. Like, we can assume all sorts of stuff, but like, it's like you said, anytime you receive an award, but they're so critical in your life that you still reflect back now and you're like, oh no, like this was so important. And it's not to say you couldn't have met somebody else, you could have, but they happen to be the people there. And I think that's why it's so important, is like when you have this community around basketball, because you're probably not the only one who has that experience from them. Right. Like when you're, you typically mentors have tons of different people there as mentees. Right. And so I just love asking that question, because I think it's super important for those people to get their kind of like their due, and just, definitely. So I love hearing you say all that stuff. Is there anyone else? I have so many questions to ask you, but like, is there anything, is there anyone else that you want to just give a shout out to, or anyone else that was critical in kind of helping you along the path?
Yeah, I definitely would say Sarah Lundgren was huge, just in terms of being my first year in provincial team. And she believed in me. She knew I had what it takes, and again, demanded a lot from me, but also at the same time made it fun and an enjoyable experience. Because at that time, provincial team, I think now they start end of May, but we were starting like beginning of April. Like it was as soon as your school season finished, you're jumping right into provincial team. We were doing weights a couple times a week. We were doing 2-a-days on the weekends. Like it was a very intense time, and we spent a lot of time together. But I'm incredibly grateful for how fun she made it, because, as a 14-year-old giving up your summer to play basketball, it's not everybody can do that. And if you kind of go about it the wrong way as a coach, you can lose a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people that maybe are good at the game or love the game, but just because of how you made it, you could lose them. So super appreciative of Sarah. She actually played for my mom, so it was kind of like a full circle moment too as well, which was nice. And yeah, as well as Stacy Hawash. It was another person very instrumental. She was my provincial team coach for U15, and then I got to play for her for grade 10, 11, 12 at Vincent Massey. Again, somebody that demands a lot out of you and doesn't let you slack off at all. But so appreciative of her because she definitely helped me make my college dreams a reality. She was somebody I went to constantly, okay, I have these offers. What do you think of this? What do you think of these coaches? And definitely being a ref, she knows them a little differently than maybe I would see them. And she's been around the game too, she played it at U of M, and she kind of knows how everything works out and goes about in high school. And so she was somebody who, again, super pivotal in my whole basketball journey, especially grade 10, 11, 12, I think are so instrumental and set you up for the college game. And I think she was somebody who I needed to play for because, again, she pushed me to be better and no slacking off at all.
Yeah. I can see a trend here. We know what type of coaches you like. So
yeah, exactly.
So I have to ask you this. So you mentioned Stacy. Obviously, we got up to your high school career here. Now, just jump right into it. You went to UBC, obviously.
Yeah.
Why'd you choose UBC, and who else was recruiting you?
So I got a lot of emails from a lot of different coaches, especially in Canada. I was holding out for the States, really a lot of places I wanted to go there. But at the same time, I wasn't comfortable. I didn't want to go to a small town school.
Yeah.
I didn't want my name to get lost, playing for Team Canada was definitely something that I wanted to accomplish. So I was like, if I go to a small town school, I don't know how much, Basketball Canada is going to follow me there.
Yeah.
And I'd also just heard a lot of girls who had bad experiences, went 1 year, got injured, they didn't treat you well.
Yeah.
So that was all kind of iffy. And then just the fact that you get to play 5 years in Canada, that's, I think, what really sold me. So in terms of teams that were recruiting me, I wanted to be in a big city. I think I always knew that I wanted to leave Winnipeg, as much as Tanya and Michelle, called me and we chatted and stuff.
Yeah, no kidding.
I definitely told them from the start, I need to go away. That's something I just personally feel like I need to do. I need to get out of the city. I need to be by myself, experience something new. And they were very appreciative. Like they saw that in me and they said, you know what, you have a spot. If you ever want to come back, you can always reach out. And so they're very, very good about that. It was kind of hard on my mom, I think, because she was like, why aren't you going to U of M? Like, come on. There's no other choice. Like she would have loved all the attention she would have gotten. Like her friends could have messaged her and like, it's so exciting, your daughter's coming now. So I think it was a little hard on her, as much as she says, we want Keylyn to do what she wants to do, but I think it was definitely hard on her.
Yeah.
But at the end, it really came down to McGill and UBC. Those are the two teams, best schools two of the top best schools in Canada.
Yep.
They had really good teams at the time. McGill had just come off, I think, being national runner-up. UBC had just won or just got bronze. So definitely good teams, very good coaches. And then really it came down to, I don't speak French. So McGill, when I went on my visit there, I was like, they actually speak French here, like team, all the girls. So I was like, okay, I think UBC fits me better. I loved how they had a full-time assistant coach, Carrie Watts, and then Coach Deb, two like female staff. I appreciate that a lot too. And I loved Vancouver when I went. So
It's easy to love.
Yeah, exactly. So it made my decision quite easy.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, you went to go visit the campus. And you're like, oh, okay.
Right?
Well, I guess I'm
Yeah.
coming here. Like this is
No,
pretty easy.
exactly. Exactly. There's a beach like 5-minute walk
Yeah,
from the dorms. I'm like, yeah, I'm
unreal,
sold.
unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, UBC is awesome.
Yeah.
Vancouver is awesome. I mean,
Oh,
that's home. That's home. That's my hometown outside of
yeah,
Winnipeg. So like, and yeah, I know it very, very well. I've heard many of people who've never
definitely.
gone to the campus there, and like whether it's on a visit or like they're like, "What? This is amazing,"
Right?
or
It's
they've never been to
amazing.
Vancouver as a city. It's just so nice, you know.
Yeah. No, so nice.
Yeah,
And you get a little piece of everything there, like,
yeah, literally,
city life,
literally,
nature,
yeah,
beaches. So
yeah,
it was an easy sell for me.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, so then, okay, so then, you admit you kind of mentioned it a few times, and it's like you can come back whenever you want. So we obviously went through, and I'm going to ask you about this, is like the whole COVID
Yeah.
season, right?
Yeah.
Like a COVID season and a half. Like I mean,
Yeah.
it was kind of like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you played the whole season, and then was it nationals that got canceled? I don't
And
remember what
then,
happened. And then the
so,
following year there was like a smaller season, right? Or was it
so
canceled?
I think that whole season was canceled. So we got to play
Hmm.
our 18-19 season fully.
Yeah.
Um, my team didn't make it to nationals, unfortunately, but I got to go watch just because I think that year is accepting awards. So me and my coach
Mhm.
got to go. And then I think a week later, I got home from that, watching that nationals, and then school was shut down. They're like,
Yeah.
we're going
Yeah.
online. So luckily it just missed our season. And then the next year was totally canceled. So at that point,
Mhm.
I chose to collect my CERB on a beach in Vancouver, and I was kind of chilling out there all summer, and we were just kind of waiting to hear, what happens with the season. September, I think, was when we learned, or no, yeah, was when we learned that, there's not going to be a
Mhm.
season.
Mhm.
That would have been my senior season. So that was definitely disappointing, and a lot of different emotions. I felt, just because, yeah, it was supposed to be my last year. So now I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to be done my school. So what would I even take next year in school? It's a whole nother year that I have to be out here. A whole nother year that, I have to try and find money and funds to put myself
Mhm.
up here.
Mhm.
Um, so I think it was a lot to deal with. October was definitely hard. I lived with 3 other girls, Marcy and Allie and Gabby, and we were all going into our senior year, and I think we all took it very hard, just because they knew that some of them had jobs lined up, and
Mhm. Mhm.
they weren't ready to, give up on the job to play their senior season. So now they're like, okay, well, I guess my basketball career is done. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of people across the country had to kind of make that decision. Okay, well, am I just going to be done basketball now, or am I
Yep.
going to wait out this year and then try and do something next year? So yeah, so that all happened. Luckily that whole year though, Vancouver, I don't know, or the sporting council, I guess,
Mhm.
in BC was not governed by the province. They were their own entity, so they had their own insurance.
Mhm.
So we actually were allowed to practice. We were practicing like 5-on-5,
Okay.
doing everything, practicing 5 days a week. We were going to
Yeah. Yeah.
lifts.
Yeah.
Like, it was really just like we had off season now for 10 months.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so during that, I was definitely like, why are we even practicing? Like, we're not playing's the
Yeah.
best
Yeah.
part. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot to deal with. But then I'd see my friends in Winnipeg, and they couldn't even go into a gym. Like,
Yeah.
they're running around in the snow doing like
Yeah.
Rocky workouts.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess I have it good here that we're at least allowed to practice and get into a gym whenever we want. And
Exactly.
couldn't complain too much. So yeah, that all kind of happened. And I think it was January of that year where it was, again, my mom trying to, get me back home any way possible. She was like,
Oh.
like, what if you did a grad transfer? Like, you're graduating. what
Mhm.
if you what if you came back to Winnipeg and played here? And I think when she says Winnipeg, she meant U of M. She did
Yeah.
not mean
Yeah.
U of W.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's like, why don't you do a grad transfer? And so that kind of triggered a little bit inside me. And it was also triggered because my head coach, Deb, at the time, she had just told me that she's going to retire at the end of this COVID year. She's not going to stay and do another. So that, I think, is what really set flames to the whole U of W thing and me thinking about doing a grad transfer, because my head coach was leaving. And then it really became real when they didn't hire my, so Carrie was my assistant. They ended up not hiring her and bringing in somebody new from Ontario. And at that point I was like, okay, well, if I'm not playing for Deb or Carrie, I don't see myself in BC. And if I'm going to stay another year in college, I want to win a national championship, because at this point I was also getting interest in stuff to play pro for the following year. So that was another option. So I'm like, okay, well, if I'm coming back, I want to put myself in the best chance to win a national championship. So I start thinking, okay, well, just knowing what I knew about our UBC team, a new coach coming in, and then the seniors that I knew were leaving, I think we'd be good. I didn't think we had the necessary parts to win a national championship. So then I start looking, okay, who across the country has those parts in place? Well, U of W, Faith is coming back off injury. Kiana's coming back off injury. I've played for Tanya before. We won the national championships with her for provincial team. So that all was very, very intriguing. I also was looking at some OUA teams, but then, what beats coming home for your last year, playing in front of family, playing with all the girls you grew up with, playing for a coach, that you've already played for. So yeah, I applied for a master's program at U of W, with Tanya's help, I guess, ended up getting in, and it all kind of worked out from there.
Yeah, no, it was interesting when I heard you were coming back, obviously, and then like knowing the team, it was like, okay, this is going to be big. And we mentioned I mentioned in the intro, and I'm sorry if this stings a little bit. I actually interviewed Alyssa, and she brought this up a little bit as well, just making it all that way, and it's an accomplishment in itself, right? Like you make it all that way, and like only one team can really win, but I'm sure that year in itself was special. I mean, obviously we talked about some of the individual awards you took home and stuff like that. So I don't know what stands out the most about the whole journey. Like you come back home now, you are playing consistently in front. You got friends, family, like it's a hometown. Playing with old teammates. Like you guys won a gold medal. We didn't really talk about that in 2014. Well, like what was it like? What stands out to you?
It was honestly. It was an amazing season, and I think one of my favorite years of basketball that I've played. I loved playing for Tanya. I loved our provincial team experience, and then now getting to see her as a university coach, I love her even more. People obviously see her on the sidelines of our games and stuff, and I think they see her as a certain way, and she's definitely a lot of that. But she is one of the most caring people and coaches I've ever played for. Like the relationships that she has with players on our team, like she really cares about you. And if you give her stuff, she's more than happy to give it back to you and, give you advice and check in with you and everything. So that was amazing. Definitely fun playing with Kiana. I mean, I think she's going to win Player of the Year this year, and I'd love to see back-to-back U of W players win Player of the Year. But I think I said in my speech when I won Player of the Year, I was like, you could have easily given this to Kiana, and nobody would have said anything, because it's true, it's fair. She deserves just as much credit and praise and everything. And we became really, really close this year. I think that's one of the major things that came out of this year. Just, we were always friends, always kept in kind of touch, but just the things that we went through this year, as teammates made us way closer as friends, and definitely somebody that I'll have in my life for the rest of my life. Obviously fun again playing with Faith too. Like it was so cool to be out there and not know who's going to go off for 20. Like like you double team me, Kiana and Faith are wide open, or Anna and Robin are wide open. Like all of our starting five had the ability to go off on any given night. And I think that was something that I never really had before. You know, obviously you might have a team that's lucky enough to have two really good players, but to have five girls out there who understand the game so well, all have such a good understanding of how to play one-on-one. That's not something you see a lot in women's basketball, because a lot of the girls, I think, are very good within systems and can thrive within a system. But all of us, we didn't really have a system. We were playing one-on-one out there, and we understood each other's strengths and we understood each other's weaknesses. And we kind of battled every night, went out there and found whoever was not, or guarded by the least defensive specialist, I guess. And we picked them apart, and everybody knew it. And then we just watch as somebody goes off for 20, or people go off for 20. And definitely a fun team to be a part of.
Like I said, it's awesome, and you're totally right. You know, I found it interesting, I guess, corollary to like your story, and it would have been cool had she come back for that year. But sorry, I'm just completely blanking on her name, and I was thinking about it. She just came back. She was playing at down south.
Oh, Roselle.
Roselle came, and now she's playing. I was like, it's too bad, you know. It's like, I mean, it didn't work out, timing, life stuff, whatever. Right? But like that would have been crazy if she.
It would have been crazy. I'm so excited though to watch their season this year.
I know.
They didn't miss a beat, and I mean, Kiana went off for 45 the other weekend. So
it's
it'll be fun for them. Yeah,
pretty cool for sure.
Definitely.
For sure. Cool. So well, we could talk about stuff like that. We didn't even talk about the gold medal. I mean, I think, you know, we could go into that, but kind of have to wrap it up here. So I do want to finish with a question. I kind of finish most of the interviews with the guests leaving some advice. I think that's really important. You know, whether it be coaches. I mean, we've had all sorts of different types of people, players, professional players. I mean, you're in, you know, I've interviewed people who are like, I've been playing pro forever. You're in your early years. You know, so it's always cool to get these different perspectives. And obviously we have different life experiences as well, right? So pretty much imagine, I'll paint the picture for you. So imagine like you're talking to the provincial team. And you have you're at Sport Manitoba building, you know, they have those Meet Team Manitoba, they have those things. And all the athletes are there, and they bring you out as a speaker. And I want you also to imagine that every single person in that room, and, you know, probably a lot of them will have this desire, but let's just imagine that every single one of them wants to essentially have the career that you had. So the advice you're giving them is specific, because it's like, they look at you and they're like, okay, I want your career. I want to do what you're doing. You're playing pro. You did this, Bristol team, all these awards. What would be 3 pieces of advice that you would give them, to those players, those provincial team players, if you were standing in front of them, and they wanted to succeed the way that you succeeded in your basketball career?
I would definitely say to the younger group of them, the U15s, play as many sports as you can. I think that's something that has been totally lost within the recent years. Like, people want to specialize as early as they can because they think it makes them better or more elite than everybody else. But I think I wouldn't have been the player I am without having played volleyball. I played hockey. I did handball. I did badminton. Like, I swam. Like, the amount of just physical maturity that your body does in each of those different sports is going to help you as a basketball player, but also just the concepts. Like, there's so many things in hockey that I could transfer over to basketball in terms of IQ wise, that, you know, hadn't I not played the sport, I wouldn't have had that kind of mental advantage or intelligent advantage. So I would say play as many sports as you can. just get that diversity, because it won't be long until you're just playing basketball, and you're going to have many years to just play basketball. Like I had, 5 years of college, and now I'm in I had a COVID year, so 6, and then now I'm 7. So 7 years just playing basketball. Like that's a lot. And I miss the days when I played all these different sports and got to experience a lot of stuff. So just try and play as many sports as you can. And then I would also say to the older group, something that's always helped me is do what you can to win. Don't do what you can to be the best player. That's not what you should be thinking about going into games. I think do what you can to win. If that means, one game you're on the bench cheering, that's what you're doing. You're doing it the best you can, because that's what's going to help your team win. If it's maybe you have to rebound that game really hard, you have a tough matchup, you have to defend, doing what you can to win, and having that mindset, I think will definitely help you more than if you think, okay, I need to get 20 and 10 tonight. I need to go out there. All the games that I've gone out and thought, okay, I need to, I'm averaging 20 and 10. So that means tonight I need to go out, get 20 and 10. I've had the worst games of my life, because I'm just looking up at the scoreboard. Oh, Filewich, come on. Like, it doesn't work like that as much as I wish it did. And, but the games that I'm like, okay, we need to win. We need to, this is going to be a challenging opponent. We need to get this W. Those are the games I think I have my most success, because I'm not thinking about statistics. I'm just thinking about, okay, what do I have to do in this moment to help us win the game? If it's making shots, then, I'm doing that. If it's rebounding, I'm doing that. If it's defending, I'm doing that. Cheering, I'm doing that. If it's checking up on your teammates because, they're having an off night, you're going over there, you're checking in with them. You're saying, what's up? If it's talking to your coach because you see something differently than what they're doing, you're doing that. I think that's one of the biggest things I could tell players in general, is just thinking about, okay, how am I going to go out there and win tonight? And then I've been rewatching The Last Dance recently, and I think it's what Michael Jordan did. Is he wanted to win, and some nights he'd go off for 50 because that's what they needed to win, and then some nights he'd hustle and he'd pick on his teammates because he knew that's what they needed to win. So definitely something that can apply to sport, and hopefully make everybody a little bit better at playing basketball.
Absolutely. I think you could take that and apply it to life too. I like that. So the way you said it was, do what you can to win.
Yeah, do what you can to help your team win. Yeah,
I like that. Do what you can to win, because it's like, you can't all, like, it really speaks to like people's roles, right? Like, I may not be able to do something, but there are things I can do, and I think if I focus on those things that I can do, and the intention is to help my team win, like you said, not to like, I can score, but if my intention is just to like get buckets, that might not be what my team needs, especially if I'm not scoring well today. It's like, what are you doing, right? So doing what you can, I like that.
And I think it requires a lot of players to, look, reflect on themselves, and like, what do I bring to a team, as well as reflecting on the people around you. What do your teammates bring to the team? Because you could be going off for 20 and 10, but if your rest of your teammates are suffering because you're just being a black hole out there, like, that's not going to help you win. That's
good advice. I like that. I see a future for you in coaching. You come off as a coach already, and you say all the right things. Like you seem very wise beyond your years in this realm. So I see that for you. I don't think that's a stretch. I don't think that's a stretch at all. No. You had some very good mentors that established this in you, and so shout out to them. I appreciate you taking the time. Good luck in the rest of the season. Thank you. I guess, I know it's hit and miss with some people. Do you get to come home for the Christmas break, or is it you're going to be out there the whole time?
I'm just going to be out here. I think my parents they're going to come out. They're going to come out, after Christmas. So
there you go.
It'll be perfect. Yeah.
Perfect. Exactly. So good luck. And yeah, I mean, again, I'm if this podcast goes on long enough and I happen to still be the host, I think I'll probably be interviewing again. Maybe it'll be when we're both much older and you'll be coaching or something like that. Who knows?
Oh yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, thanks so much, and take care.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, cool. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please like, subscribe, follow, and share this series, and reach out to us with your comments on the show. Thanks again for joining us.